Too quiet.
Eerily quiet. Aluminum foil, just like the real thing.
I'm in college.
Houston, we have a problem. Well, this right here says places that we've actually been to. Wow.
I didn't know that they say that there's that many places.
All the Apollo missions. I thought they just visited the same crater.
No, they didn't want to disturb. You can't go to the same place twice.
Right,
You
yeah.
can't duplicate the same place twice.
Dinosaurs. Hey, is that a moon fossil?
All this is how they move around it with the retro rocket.
Makes perfect sense. Yep.
Because there's stuff to push off of.
So it's just compressed air.
Let's push off the stuff inside.
Inside.
And let go of the pushed off in this.
Yep. Which will project itself.
Man, it makes so clear.
Makes so much sense. Let's look at the spacesuit. Oh, that's a space helmet.
Doesn't a vacuum
Expand.
Expand?
Mhm.
Wouldn't it be like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man?
Yeah.
Whole thing holds it all back.
Yeah, well, you know, I think that's Gore-Tex.
When did you get that?
This week, my father got a deal from a friend of his. It's Gore-Tex.
That was it.
Navigate. Oh, that's their GPS.
GPS or the pendulum?
Oh, yeah, it's like a gyro.
Gyro?
Gyros work in space. Okay, and this
So
is...
this is an astronaut, huh?
Is this real? Wait. It was worn by Eugene.
Apollo 10.
didn't quite make it to Apollo 11. That would have been disastrous. Well, let's look here. Is this airproof? I mean, I'm seeing stitches going right through the fabric.
That locking mechanism looks...
I would not trust any of these locking mechanisms. Yeah, I mean, like, I see thread and stitching, like...
That's just on the outer layer, not the...
Oh. Well, the inner layer is, like, terrible.
But then this part here, in case they need to go to the bathroom.
Yeah. So you could flip the
Just
zip.
that part is out.
Yep.
And then the other part, all the rest is...
It holds all the pressure.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
And the boots don't have that secure hand locking mechanism.
Yeah, that's a good point. They just kind of fold over. They just cuff the ends of the pants there. It's totally safe.
Safe and effective.
Safe and effective. So there was supposed to be a eclipse.
Yeah, this weekend.
Yeah.
Saturday. Yeah, so it's just a planetarium in here. And a little gift shop.
Well, let's go
What
sit
day
in
is
the
today?
planetarium. Let's watch the show. Is there a show?
What day today? No, only on Wednesday to Saturday.
Ah, well, we're missing it. Oh yeah, let's take a look. See if they got any flat Earth stickers in there.
Well, you know, like when I was little, I had a mobile above my crib,
Crib.
with the stars and the planets and
Yep.
everything. You know, I was so into space. Stay up and watch the Star Trek episodes being put on, and
That's right.
I knew about all this stuff from a young age. I don't know. One about bone rash. I wish I would have. I did find a few fossilized shells.
Yeah.
The chalcedony that went into the shells, or they almost would be considered agates, and those are pretty cool. That they're the whole space inside the shell got filled up because it's like a cavity,
Mm-hmm.
so it got filled up with mostly silver.
Dirt.
Well, it's mostly like quartz, but it's liquefied quartz because of the temperature,
Mm.
because of the high temperature, and it's you can almost see in it, so it's not the opposite of opaque. It's like not see-through, but
Transparent.
transparent, not transparent, but like pretty between. So like if you put it up to the light, so you can see the light in it.
Oh, okay. Look at the tiny arms. Those little baby arms.
I didn't even think that.
His arms are bigger
I didn't
than
even think
his
that there
arms.
was dinosaurs. I was actually thinking about bones, what the bones turn into. You know, like because they really are finding stuff. As in,
Are they?
What they're telling us it is not.
Oh, right. They're dragons.
That's more feasible,
More plausible.
plausible. Here, I'll get you this one.
Oh,
Because everyone needs to know about
Born with a Bang.
the Big Bang Theory.
Wow, that's
That's
a
only
trip.
book one.
That is a trip
Once you were a tiny speck.
of nothing. Insignificant.
That turned into everything. But you couldn't stay small. But I mean, technically that's true.
Yep.
Once I was a tiny.
Space food.
These are kind of what I mean. The idea of the agate is you can kind of see into it.
Yep.
So that's what's kind of neat about that.
Well, hold up. I wanted to ask this guy something about that spacesuit out there.
Hi.
Hello. Is there somebody I can ask a question about the suit that's out there?
Yeah, what's up?
Well, is that real?
It is, yeah. So that was actually worn on Apollo 10.
Wow.
So it didn't go on the moon, but it went around the moon.
So that would like protect people from space, basically. Like
Yep.
That was the protection?
Yep.
That's crazy. Because you could see the stitching in it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of layers underneath that outer one, too, but yeah.
Right. What kind of layers are like underneath?
Chris, do you know?
Back at it.
I'm Flat Earth City.
And I'm RealmWalker. We just want to say if you guys want to support the channel, be sure to like it, subscribe, hit that little bell, share this where you can, try to get this out there. We're coming back after a hiatus.
Been gone a little while.
Been gone a little while, and we are looking forward to do some more epic flat smacking, Tim. What do you say?
I want to get some of those live videos on the streets, so got to get up over 1,000 subs.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
I'm at 775 now, so let's
Subscribe to Tim's channel if you're not already. It's Flat Earth City. Link is in the description. Check it out. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, and I'm going to make sure that I'm going to bring you some really high quality content. So stay tuned and just keep flat smacking, guys. And if you don't know the Earth is flat, I urge you to continue watching our channel, and I guarantee you, you're going to figure it out.
And then in the comments, if you got any good locations that you'd like to see us at around Chicagoland area, we'll head to them and maybe meet you there.
Stay flat, guys. Keep it up, and much love.
What all is inside?
I'm trying to remember exactly how many,
Yeah.
but there's like a Kevlar kind of equivalent. There's insulating material, so I want to say there's something like 13 layers or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds like what it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I cannot recall off the top of my head the exact number, but I've seen before. We'll call it like a little sample, square, 4-inch square, and it had all the layers, so you could see
Oh, okay.
all the different parts that go to it.
So it's just like sandwiched in like a packet or something?
Yeah.
So, okay, so the radiation protection, right? They would need like some sort of like
Well,
barrier from radiation?
Well, if there was a solar storm or something going on, then they would opt not to go out.
What about, okay, so like, and I don't know too much about this, you might know more, the Van Allen radiation belts.
Mm-hmm.
So they traveled through and back.
Yeah, they traveled through, but they weren't hugely exposed.
Any ill effects from the Van Allen radiation belts?
No, I'm not sure we went far enough out to encounter the Van Allen radiation belt. Maybe we did.
Beginning at an altitude of 1,000 miles and extending an additional 25,000 miles, lay lethal bands of radiation called the Van Allen radiation belts. Every space mission in history with humans on board, from both the United States and Soviet Union, from the first in 1961 to the present, has been well below this deadly radiation field. Mercury, Gemini, Soyuz, Skylab, the Space Shuttle, all maintained altitudes well below 1,000 miles. All except Apollo.
I don't know the distance to the Van Allen radiation belt, and if we did, it wasn't a problem. If we were going to encounter it, then we would have had to build the spacecraft and the spacesuit to not give humans a problem.
The belts are 1,000 miles to 25,000 miles above the Earth.
Then we went right out through them.
No effects on your cells.
We didn't even know it. I don't think anybody, well, maybe somebody said you went through the radiation belt, but we didn't feel it inside, and we didn't get any, added radiation.
Okay. So the
the main radiation concern is from the sun.
Okay.
And so, like aboard the space station, they've got a couple of places they can go that have a little better shielding than just being in the habitat, so to speak.
Right.
So
Well, when they were traveling, so they were in the So they're basically on the rocket on their way to the moon, and then the rocket passes through the Van Allen belt, right?
Yeah.
And then from there they travel through the shuttle. So they would take the lunar lander down to the surface.
Yes.
And then so they wouldn't need protection in the lander. They would just need protection in the shuttle. Is that correct?
Okay, in the capsule that they're traveling.
Yeah.
So there was a little more protection in the capsule than there was in the lunar lander.
The electrons can penetrate through various materials, including spacesuits, and can pass through, in fact, the walls of the space station, and can create high charges deep inside of these objects.
Okay, so the lunar lander didn't really have any...
Not any significant, major radiation protection.
Interesting. Okay.
Because they were going for weight, and so it's like the structure of the shuttle, in some places you could almost put your hand through the material.
Oh, wow.
Wasn't it that each astronaut was exposed to about a CAT scan's worth of
Yeah.
radiation?
Yeah, that's what our little dosimeter said, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so they sent like radiation monitors out there with them so that they could figure it out.
They
Because,
could measure what they've been exposed to.
yeah.
Oh, they did?
It ended up being about the same as what you would be exposed to going through a CAT scan.
Okay. So that's outside the Van Allen belts after they were in the lander, the capsule lander or whatever.
Well, that was total.
Yeah.
Total.
That was the total exposure throughout.
Throughout the entire mission, from like Earth to Earth.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
7 days.
Wow. Okay. Well, that is just completely fascinating, especially because, I mean, when did they discover the Van Allen belts? That was in...
Oh, gee, that's Explorer 1.
Yeah.
So late 50s.
Right. So okay. So they knew about it even before the whole space missions actually even started.
Yeah, they actually had discovered the Van Allen radiation belts. I want to say from Explorer 1, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
So I think they had been predicted, and then they were proved. And I'm trying to remember if they were determined to be more or less. What's the word I'm looking for? Strength than what they actually discovered.
So wait. So you're saying that the Van Allen belts themselves, the intensity has changed over time?
No, what I'm saying is I think that they were predicted, if I recall correctly, and I'm doing this from memory, is that they were in a way predicted, hypothesized. We think there might be some radiation belts, and that's what they discovered, except the intensity was not what they predicted. And I don't recall if it was higher or lower.
So when were they first measured, like physically measured?
Well, the discovery and basic measurement would be, I think, Explorer 1. So it's, whatever that is, 1958.
Okay.
59.
So right before the first Apollo mission.
Yeah, there were several. Well, Apollo, we didn't put a
Yeah, I was not aware of that because I did listen to some interviews with some of the early Apollo crew members, and they weren't even up to speed on the whole Van Allen belts. In the interview, I think they were quoted on saying something like they didn't even realize they were there.
No, I'm not sure we went far enough out to encounter the Van Allen radiation belt. Maybe we did.
So that's interesting.
What, the astronauts didn't realize they were there?
They didn't know that there was such a thing as the Van Allen belts when they traveled through them. And they said that even if they were there, that it was nothing for them enough to notice that they even were there.
Yeah, because it's a localized phenomenon. It's not like the whole Earth is surrounded by this radiation shield, if you will, belt. So you have to pass through a specific location.
Right. Yeah, because it surrounds the you know, well, what I would assume is like the equator of the Earth.
You would ask me right now what path the radiation belts follow, and I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
I'm going to admit that.
That's
I
right.
have to look it up.
Yep. I'm not even 100% myself, so I
Yeah.
can't really even quote on that. But yeah, I always thought that was interesting. And then, you know, the fact that they pass through them, you know, to and back. But it's funny because, like, you know, now I think the consensus of space, a lot of the space scientists would say we can't travel through them now. We don't have the technology to get through them.
As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation. Radiation like this can harm the guidance systems, onboard computers, or other electronics on Orion. Naturally, we have to pass through this danger zone twice, once up and once back. But Orion has protection. Shielding will be put to the test as the vehicle cuts through the waves of radiation. Sensors aboard will record radiation levels for scientists to study. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space.
So like they're saying, like, basically the technology that was used during the Apollo missions is lost, and they don't have that technology to go back to the moon.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again. Destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
I mean, considering the Artemis program is happening, I don't think that that's true.
So they do have the technology now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a mission currently planned that's taking people back to the moon this decade.
NASA setting its sights on a return to the moon by 2024. It's part of the Artemis program. NASA developing the next generation of spacesuits for the astronauts. But there's a new report out from NASA's Inspector General that shows that goal of getting back to the moon in 3 years is now not feasible.
And anybody who's been in Earth orbit has potentially been exposed.
Low Earth orbit.
Yeah, low Earth orbit.
So even the ISS.
I'm not sure what the altitude of the
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to go.
250, something like that.
What, miles?
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
They travel between the Earth and the moon.
Well, and the Van Allen belts were discovered by an Earth orbiting satellite. I don't recall exactly what the altitude was.
Right.
But it wasn't going to be any tremendous altitude.
Mm-hmm.
So it may be that ISS and things like that are orbiting or at a higher orbital altitude.
Interesting. Yeah.
So you're actually outside.
Outside the belts?
Outside the belts, yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah, I thought they were a lot lower. Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head, but I thought the ISS is so close to the Earth that it can't even see the entire Earth, so they can only see sections of the Earth at a time, and from the vantage point of the...
Yeah, because they're only, what, 250 miles up?
Yeah.
So, because Hubble was more than 300. So, so your question is radiation a current concern for space exploration?
for space exploration. That's the way they make it sound like. That's the whole reason why we can't go back, is that they don't have...
Well, one of the big concerns is if the sun has a massive eruption, a CME, a coronal mass ejection, and kicks off all this material and radiation, that if the astronauts of the spacecraft were to take a direct hit from that, then yes, they would be exposed. So there are strategies for, we'll call it shelter in place, so that, for instance, the Soyuz spacecraft or the Orion spacecraft will have some radiation shield. But ideally, you don't want to be exposed for long periods of time. There's some discussion about also using water as a radiation shield. Problem with water is it's heavy.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's another concern for, let's say, going to the surface of Mars, because there's no real protection from the sun's radiation because the atmosphere is different. So, you're monitoring, we'll call it the space weather, and if the sun has a big explosion that might be kicking stuff off for a direct hit, then you might go to shelter for a period. So, radiation's a nasty thing.
Sure is, yeah. Yeah, I am extremely doubtful that we're going to see a manned mission, just simply because of, for one thing, if it were physically possible, like for us to actually travel to the moon and land there physically and actually be there,
yeah,
I feel like that it would be over and done a million times by now. But the fact is that since the 60s we haven't done it. It's kind of, it's a little fishy, you know what I mean? Like,
well, okay.
Especially with the technology we had in the 60s compared to the technology we have now. Like, my phone is a million times stronger, more powerful than the computer that they use.
In your phone than what got us to the moon.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If you really think about it, we're coming up on 50 years, half a century, since the alleged moon landings in the 1960s with 1960s technology. And when, Columbus came to America, I think it was only a few months, then other nations started coming to America. When the Wright brothers put powered flight in the air, I think it was only a few months later other people were doing powered flight. And, when Lewis and Clark went west, shortly thereafter everybody went west. When Lindbergh flew across the Atlantic, it wasn't too long to where everyone was flying across the Atlantic. We had 747s brilliant. So to say that someone went to the moon in the 1960s, and 50 years later, with 50 years better technology, no nation on Earth, including the one who allegedly did it, was able to repeat it. That's like me saying I did cold fusion. You say, show me, and I say, well, I can't do it again in 50 years.
So that right there is red flag, like.
Well, the technology has changed. What was I going to say? It's not space race.
Right.
We got to the moon. We beat Russia. How much of the space race and space development was politically based? Us versus them kind of stuff.
I think that's what makes it even more fishy, because like here we have a race to get to the moon before the Russians, and it's like, how fast can we develop this technology and make this happen? And, if, like, let's say America would have, like, lost that race, it would have been disgraceful, so they're going to have to do everything that they can to make it possible. And I think, personally, it was faked because, first of all, logistically speaking, like, for it to be possible then with the technology they have, it sounds crazy, like the type of maneuvering capabilities that you would need, the way that you would have to, plot your flight path there. You would need on-the-fly computing that would be like extremely powerful, and we just didn't have that. I mean, it would literally have to shoot it by sight for most of the work that they were doing. How do you gauge the distance between two separate objects when the technology you're using to gauge the distance between the two separate objects takes the amount of computing power that we don't even have today? So how are they going to plot a route that is not only just, it's not like we're just shooting straight. We're like, going on an elliptical orbit.
But
and
before we had computing power, we had pencil and the slide rule.
Right.
And so celestial mechanics and orbital dynamics are pretty well understood.
Sure.
So stuff could be calculated
here on Earth, but it would take months and even years to calculate something. But if there was a slight alteration, you wouldn't be able to change that on the fly. That would be physically impossible with the technology then. So that's what really throws doubt. And then also on top of that, you have, okay, so you have like, quote unquote, the missions that happened, right? And then, you know, nobody else decides to lay foot on the moon. I mean, it's a free-for-all at that point, right? If America did it, then why wouldn't Russia be setting foot on the moon
But Russia
directly after?
Russia had trouble with their lunar program. Their rocket design was different than Saturn V and blew up on the pad. The Americans have done it. You know, we've got other things to worry about. So, I mean, you've got all the political stuff and everything else in Congress and, you know, all of the negotiations about, you know, what, for instance, the space shuttle. The space shuttle was originally designed to be X, and then the Department of Defense was working on their own stuff, and then they merged the two programs, and so everybody was compromising. So the shuttle was the shuttle. It wasn't built to go to the moon. It was built to do, you know, basically low Earth orbit. So it's just changing priorities. It's like there were designs for the space station in the 80s, but nothing was built because there wasn't the support for it.
Well, even still, like, I mean, today, you know, there's plenty of reason to go. You know, we have more than enough reason to conquer or conquest new lands and new territories. I mean, the fact that the Earth is so overrun, I mean, there's literally nowhere for anyone to go. You know, as far as that's new territory that can be found on the quote unquote Earth. So why wouldn't people be going to the moon today? And especially like,
It costs money.
yeah, but it didn't cost that for the technology that they used back then. The cost of that same technology today would be pennies on the dollar. It would literally cost hardly anything. The only thing that they would have to the workaround would be getting into space. But we're talking about corporations here with financial gain. I mean, you got quote unquote SpaceX and all these other companies that are supposedly shooting things out into space, and they're not landing on the moon. That's super suspicious. You don't think so?
No.
I mean, so
they see more immediate gain to putting a constellation of satellites into orbit around the Earth for internet or other kinds of communications, rather than the long game, which is to go to the moon, is going to cost a ton. So they're sort of riding piggyback on the government aspect of things.
So the only thing that's holding us back from going to the moon today is the United States government. I find that so hard to believe.
Is it that hard to believe since the government is shut down because they can't elect the Speaker of the House?
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, the government would have that much power over. I mean, people are literally crossing the border right now in droves. You know, the point is that nobody's listening to the government. Everybody's doing their own thing.
They can't even agree with themselves.
So you're thinking that no other country has the ability or the technology to do it?
They're trying.
They're working on it.
I think that I think that
China has just sent rovers to the moon.
Oh, that footage from India was a joke. I don't know if you've seen it, but it was absolute travesty. I mean, we're talking like, you know, basic, not even fundamental graphics like the graphics for that of an Atari. I mean, they were ridiculous. You can't believe that stuff. That stuff's nonsense.
Last week, the Indian Space Agency allegedly landed an unmanned spacecraft and rolled out a rover onto the south pole of the moon. As usual, however, nearly 99% of the footage shown of this groundbreaking event was clear, obvious, and very poor CGI. Why do you suppose NASA, Roscosmos, the Chinese, Indian, and all other world space agencies spend money creating and airtime broadcasting all these computer graphic animations of their expeditions rather than showing us actual video footage? How difficult would it be to have a few cameras on these crafts permanently recording different angles of the entire flight for us? They allegedly succeeded in having a live telephone conversation between Nixon and astronauts on the moon, broadcast on television over 50 years ago. But with half a century of technological advancement, we still cannot receive live video from these rockets after only a couple minutes of ascent. They always change from live video for the first couple minutes to nothing but CGI for the rest of the journey. Look at these ridiculous cartoon animations and ask yourself, why can't the public just watch the actual live video of the entire journey? Even if only to be recorded and released at a later date, why aren't the public shown unedited video footage from multiple angles of the entire flight duration? Never once has any space mission in history been so transparent as to show full unedited footage of their whole expedition. Instead, what we always get is what India's space agency has just given us. A bunch of grown men and women fervently yelling and applauding over pre-made cartoons broadcast as live video. The still shots we are given from the Chandrayaan-3 are of two varieties. First, we have the overly produced, clearly photoshopped, full-color propaganda pieces, like these, which are shown repeatedly alongside claims of India's successful moon landing, without making it explicitly clear that these images were all created by artists long before the mission even started. The second type of still shot we are given are poor-quality black and white shots of dirt and a dark background, claimed to be taken on the moon, but are impossible to differentiate from a sandlot or movie set on Earth. Likewise, the short clips of video footage they tease the public with as being authentic are simply 15-second videos of some lander legs approaching a gray background and the rover rolling down a ramp onto some dirt somewhere. Look at the terrible frame rate and artificial appearance of the supposed moon. What bit of this footage proves that India has actually landed on the moon? What about these clips and images is supposed to silence skeptics and convince critical thinkers that this wasn't filmed here on Earth? The entire mission cost Indian taxpayers $75 million, which is equivalent to how much it costs to make the Hollywood space movie Independence Day, without ever leaving the Earth. It doesn't take much more than this simple charade to delude the gullible general public. But for those of us who have deeply researched this issue and poked endless holes through the lies of NASA and other space agencies, we know exactly what is going on here. For those of you who still believe in these Hollywood and Bollywood farces, please do yourself and the world a favor, and watch my banned YouTube video, 20 Proofs NASA Faked the Moon Landings, linked below in the description box.
They're getting...
I think it's just a lie. I think it's just...
You've been filming this entire conversation?
I am recording this entire conversation, yeah. But I mean, these are questions that anybody would want to ask, though.
I have to say, I'm really uncomfortable with the fact that you walked in here and just assumed that you could record all of us without even saying something.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, I only came to you guys because I thought you guys were the experts. That's why I came to you guys, and I wanted to hear what your take on it was because I want to know.
Or are you here to just posit your theories?
Well, both. I mean, that's how you come up with new ideas and thoughts. We're supposed to be able to go back and forth on what your thoughts are. If you come up with an idea that, can make me think, I'm going to think about it. I'm not going to just, close myself off. I'm definitely willing. Like when you said, why, is it really that hard to believe that the United States wouldn't nowadays? I mean, sure, that makes sense, but it also doesn't make sense because all these other countries that have, quote unquote, the technology that surpasses the Apollo missions still haven't done it. And I think that that's even crazier because it's like we're talking about a time where, computing was so basic in its like lowest ability that they were able to calculate and formulate all these flight plans, quote unquote, to do these missions. And I mean, right now there's so many countries, like our third world countries have more technology than what we had in the 60s. That's what I'm saying. It's like, it doesn't make sense. Because like, if you think about it,
people's priorities and interests are.
Sure, but wouldn't it be, any country right now were to land on the moon today, it would not only make news, it would change the whole state of the world. Everybody would be like freaking out. Like let's say not Russia. Let's say like
landed on the moon, but according to you, that didn't happen.
Well, I mean, it's debatable.
Freak out if you're going to be doubtful about it.
I'm talking about a person on the moon. Let's say that is real, which I don't want to believe. But let's say Indians went to the moon and they walked on the moon. That would be news. That would be something that would send a shock effect throughout the entire space industry. And every country would be like, what are we doing? Why are they doing this and we're not doing it? You know what I'm saying? Like if India landed on the moon yesterday, everybody would be flying by the seat of their pants to get to the moon next, right? But
I don't know. Well, I don't know that everybody has
Well, they would be worried. Like, what are they doing? Are they building bases up there? Why are they going there?
Okay, well, landing on the moon and building bases on the moon is two different things.
Sure, I do agree with that.
It's like SpaceX. If Elon Musk's goal is to go to Mars,
right?
It's hard. And
right. So wouldn't you think his first priority would be like, go to the moon first, and then go to Mars? He's talking about going straight to Mars.
I'm not sure about Elon Musk's thought process. So
yeah, you're right. I don't know what the guy's thinking. Sending a car in space.
But,
This is just a normal car. Normal air-filled rubber tires, no space paint, no nothing, no space-hardened components or extra materials, just a normal car. Everything else they send up there has to be protected from the harsh conditions of space and has to be made out of space-hardened materials and lots of gold foil. But this car doesn't have to be, I guess. This blue marble in the background doesn't show any continents, but who cares? I mean, as long as they show something blue and round and with non-moving clouds, I guess it's fine. Oh boy. According to all space agencies and all mainstream media, the space up there is absolutely cluttered with space debris, so I don't even see how they can go more than 5 minutes without crashing into anything, but alright.
Let's look close to home, in orbit around the planet at the International Space Station. A piece of bare metal in space under constant sunlight can get as hot as 260 degrees Celsius. If they need to handle bare metal, they wrap it in special coatings or blankets to protect themselves. And yet in the shade, an object will cool down to minus 100 degrees Celsius. In space, it's as cold as it can get.
You know what? Why don't we put a whole Tesla Roadster into a giant oven, bake it a little at 260 degrees Celsius, and afterwards freeze it down to 100 degrees below zero. Yeah, but if you have no problem with edited live footage and looped live footage, then have a look at this live stream, which claims to be live from Starman now, but it's just the same looped footage over and over and over again. I hope at least some of the die-hard SpaceX fans watching this may begin to think about what they are celebrating here and can open their eyes to the truth. God bless you guys. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.
Well, the car in space was a proof of concept, which was you have to have a payload aboard the rocket. Nobody was going to put one of their multi-million-dollar satellites on his rocket.
So you sent a Tesla.
First time. So it was a great promotional thing.
Right,
they were able to prove the lift capacity.
Which even proves my theory even the more, because here he had a financial gain to send his car up into space, his car, to promote the vehicle that he is producing, right? And then what happened? The stock went up for Teslas, right? It was a huge promotional gimmick, huge. It was absolutely huge. And that's just putting a quote-unquote car in space. To say that there's no financial gain to traveling to the moon today is just outrageous. I mean, like, if it were...
No one is saying that. Part of the reason why the Artemis program is being planned is for financial and commercial reasons.
So, why aren't we doing it with the technology we have? You're saying that we're planning on doing it, but we're developing technology that we had in the 1960s? That's crazy.
The technology is very different. They're having to redesign stuff.
So space changed since the 60s? So yeah, the technology has advanced, yes. Yeah. So they're going to make more advanced, suits and equipment and tools. Yeah. But that's nonsense, because that means that they already have the technology to do such. So why aren't they doing it?
It's almost like they learned from what happened with Apollo and are using new technology to better what happened.
Well, that's not necessarily true, because they said that they already lost the telemetry data for all the Apollo missions. So they said they scrubbed their records. They don't have them anymore.
All recorded on these telemetry tapes. So where is this hard evidence? I haven't seen anything that indicates the telemetry data is even in existence. And as I said, even if we had it, we don't have the machines to play it back.
You literally have to start from scratch, they say. Which is even more highly suspect.
Okay. Anyway, I think that saying that they're starting from scratch is a gross oversimplification.
Right. It should be a gross oversimplification because they should have the technology. It should be on record. They should be able to produce it, and they should still be able to do it. And they're not doing it.
Well,
that's crazy. That's super crazy.
So I think this conversation is just going in circles because everything we say you just dismiss.
I mean, but am I not making a valid argument though? I mean, like, so what's faulty about my argument? I'd like to know.
We don't have time for that.
And
yeah.
Thanks for coming in. Hope you guys had a great time.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you guys' professionalism and your ability to conversate on this. I just wanted to have a conversation. And when I originally asked about the spacesuit out there, I'm just generally curious. You look at that thing, you're like, that ragged thing is what protected people in space. I want to know more, and that's why I ask questions.
That ragged thing is now 50 years older.
Right.
More than 50 years older than
sure.
when it went to space.
Yeah, yeah.
And so
it's not in the best shape.
No,
is what you're saying. Yeah.
No, it's not in the best shape.
No, I believe that. I believe that. The question is, was it ever in the best shape in the first place?
No, that one outside is a dummy that was used to practice ocean retrieval.
Ah, see, there you go.
No, wait a minute. You're talking about the space capsule.
No, not the space capsule. The space suit.
No, the suit was not. No.
You're talking about the space capsule.
No.
Okay, so the suit was legit.
The suit is legit. It flew
That-
Apollo 10. It went around the moon. Yes.
So that one was a real suit that,
Yes.
that got really used and okay.
So.
Well. Sure.
It's like the design and manufacture of spacesuits
Yeah.
has changed enormously.
Yeah.
And it changed throughout the shuttle period. It's changing now. You know, SpaceX is doing their thing. NASA is doing their thing.
Sure. I've seen some of the newer suits that they're producing. They're pretty crazy looking, yeah.
And so, you know, it also depends. Do you have a different suit for launch versus a suit for EVA on the surface of the moon?
Good point.
And it's very possible because you know, things like the lunar soil is really abrasive and stuff like that. So one suit that might work, well, it's like the pumpkin suits on the shuttle.
Yeah.
Were not really designed for EVA. They were designed for launch and landing.
Okay.
So
you're talking about the orange ones, the ones, yeah. Those are the flight suits. Yeah.
Yeah, the pumpkin suits.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, they've been experimenting with spacesuit design aboard the space station. You know, you now have sort of the hard torso and different stuff. And
would you? Can I ask you one more question before I go? I don't want to press you too much, but what is your take on space? Is it a? I mean, obviously, space is a vacuum, quote unquote. Correct?
I think it's best if you just leave.
So, where's your question going?
So my question was, is it okay? So it's a vacuum, a negative pressure system, right? Like, so there's no. I mean, like for instance, like if you're in a pressurized system next to, let's say, a vacuum, which would be space, that pressurized system would escape into space. Like, so for instance, like you had a spacesuit, plugged a hole in it, right? Popped a hole in it. All the pressure from within the suit would be completely sucked out, right? Like it's a negative pressure system, right?
It's seeking to equalize.
Yes. Yeah. All gas it finds is so my question is like Earth having an atmosphere, right? With no container, it's a pressurized system with no container to contain it in, next to a negative pressure system such as space. What is your take on that? Do you think that it's even physically possible to have pressurized air with no container next to a negative pressure system such as space?
Why not?
Okay. What would be your explanation for the pressure on Earth remaining intact?
Well, you got factors like
Gravity?
Yeah,
Gravity.
Take a gas, vacuum of equal volume, and we're going to remove the barrier. You know what's going to happen spontaneously, right? The gas is going to fill the available volume with it.
Is the expansion of a gas into a vacuum. I have
in one of these bulbs some bromine, and in the other I have a vacuum. And if I open the tap between these two, you will see spontaneously the bromine rush from one to the other. Now that is the simplest change we can have, perhaps, because all that happens is a change in entropy. In this case, the expansion into a vacuum, nothing else is involved. There's no energy change, there's no temperature change, there's no change except entropy.
When you suggest that you have space, therefore second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply, it's a begging the question fallacy. The volume that you would calculate it with would be the volume of space the gas has to fill. And if the sky was a vacuum, that would be an availability of volume for the gas we breathe to fill.
So gravity just knows where the limit of space is and where the atmosphere ends, right? And it's
a gradual limit. It's not like
right.
There's no shell holding things in.
Yeah.
It gradually dissipates and equalizes.
Right.
There should be.
There should be though, because that's how that's the second law of thermodynamics, right? Is that any sort of pressurized system would have to, it would have to equalize. It would have to seek the negative pressure, into space, right? So air is getting sucked into space, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
So why aren't we running out of air?
Gravity.
Yeah, but that doesn't. Gravity is. I don't understand what's so special about gravity that keeps the air locked to the Earth.
Air does escape Earth's atmosphere and dissipate into outer space.
Okay, so air does escape the Earth's atmosphere and dissipate into space, but why doesn't it continue doing so?
It's continuously doing so.
So right now, we're losing air every second that we're breathing. It's just getting sucked out to space. What's replenishing the air?
It's not sucking out the rate you're thinking. It's not like turning on a vacuum cleaner.
Yeah, but it's a negative pressure system. It's going to have to seek. It's going to have to seek.
It's not the same as being within a spacesuit and having zero pressure outside, because that pressure decreases gradually the further away you get from Earth.
So the gravity is a gradient.
Correct.
So basically the air is heavy and it's being sucked to the Earth's surface, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so that doesn't make any sense though, because you got centrifugal forces, right? The Earth is spinning on the equator 1,000 miles per hour or whatever it is, right? So you have centrifugal forces pushing the air outward and gravity is pulling it back in. Is that what you're saying? I don't know if you thought this through. Like how can you have a force like gravity hold air to the surface of the Earth?
How does gravity hold you to the surface of the Earth?
It doesn't. It's density and buoyancy, right? Like things that are more dense fall down and things that are less dense go up. That's why helium balloons go up.
But what causes things to go up and go down?
So helium is lighter than air, and air is heavier than helium.
What's pulling us down to the Earth compared to air?
Okay, so
Can you just answer my question directly?
Yeah, of course. You believe that you're spinning on a ball, right? So you believe that something needs to pull you to the Earth. I don't believe I'm spinning. I feel like I'm sitting still right now. The Earth is not moving. The Earth is at rest. There's no reason to fly off the Earth. This ain't a carousel. Everything is fixed because it's not moving.
Okay.
It's understanding of perspective.
Yeah,
but,
I think we have
Right.
a completely different perspective on just
on perspective.
on the basics of the Earth.
Okay, well, I'm a flat earther. I know that the Earth is flat. You guys obviously believe that you live on a ball and you're spinning right now.
Yep.
But you're not moving. You're not going anywhere.
I'm sorry, you're not going to convince us that the Earth
Oh, I know.
is flat.
You guys are in a space center. I know I'm not going to convince you. I'm coming to you for your perspective,
It's
though.
like being aboard an airplane. If you closed all the windows on an airplane,
Sure.
you would not know that you're moving at 600 miles an hour.
What if you were on a parabolic flight that was arcing and diving downward at the same time, going in 3 different directions? Would you feel it?
Oh, what? Oh, would you feel if there's a change in,
Yep.
I'll call it vector?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Earth is changing in vector right now as we speak, right? From summer to winter, it changes speeds. It's also going in 3 different directions, right? So it's rotating, turning around the solar system, and then also traveling through, the galactic center or whatever you want to call it. So it's on 3 different vectors, maybe more, who knows? So we're traveling in 3 different motions right now.
Yeah.
And we don't feel it.
No, we don't. Because everything is moving along with us.
Yeah, but we're changing speeds. So like right there, your argument of the vector is exactly what I believe. When you change vectors, you're going to feel the difference. So
there's no change.
But there is a change.
No, there's not.
Says who?
It's constant.
No, it's not true.
Moving at a constant as it orbits.
She'll tell you right now that it does change. It does change speed.
An acceleration.
Yeah, but tell her. She probably should know that.
Well, you're talking about just the change in orbital velocity of the Earth around the Sun based on its orbit.
Not just the Earth around the Sun, but we're also traveling through the universe.
Yeah.
Like the rate of Earth's spin every day doesn't change.
That doesn't change, but the vector changes. It's on a elliptical orbit, so it's traveling upward while it's corkscrewing. So you're spinning, but the whole solar system is turning at the same time while it's moving at the same time. So it's like a helix. So your vector is changing constantly. Every time you turn, the Earth turns outside and then inward towards the Sun. The vector is changed. You're changing speed constantly. I mean that, right? Am I wrong?
You have a gross misunderstanding of frames of reference.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
That's okay. It was an interesting conversation. I appreciate you guys being cordial.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for coming in.
Sure. Do you have any questions for me, being a flat earther?
No.
What is your name?
My name's Steve. I go by RealmWalker. That's my YouTube channel. This is Flat Earth City. Tim.
Okay.
Nice to meet you guys. What's your name?
Chris.
Chris. Nice to meet you, Chris. Thank you for being so cool and talking to me.
And what is your goal with recording?
Conversation. I think that one of the big issues with the mainstream belief of the globe, no offense, is that perspectives aren't shared. People get locked into these little bubbles and they hear what they hear from, the people that they admire, but they don't hear any outside information. So this is what my channel is all about. We like to share information both ways. I'm not gonna edit you in any negative way or anything like that. I mean, well, the information that you provided to me is false. In that sense, it is negative, but I'm not going to misrepresent you. So, but it's fine. You can check it out on my channel when it does come out. But I appreciate it.
I don't want to be featured. I'm not comfortable with any of this. I think it's kind of disrespectful to just go into places and shove a camera in somebody's face.
That's fine. I mean, we're totally abiding by the law here, so we're not breaking any laws. But we do appreciate you guys' feedback and your conversation, and we thank you for it. If you want, I can blur you out.
I don't want to be in it at all.
I can't guarantee anything because this camera has a wide-angle lens, much like how they fake the curve of the Earth. But all right, guys.
All right.
Blessings to you. That was terrible. They weren't happy. I mean, I took my time. I wasn't like straight up about it from the jump. I wanted to hear what they had to say, Tim. We heard what they had to say.
It was exactly the same thing that we've heard
100 times.
She had the script down pretty well, so.
Oh yeah, she was locked in to the heliocentristic
but you can
approach.
Kind of that some of the younger ones now aren't getting the same exact script down. Like maybe they're trying to change the
narratives.
And maybe they are being taught a different narrative.
That's possible.
But
she didn't know she was
for the answers of what we've looked up and original science answers. They were exactly the same.
Yep.
And I did have to look up the space station was 220.
Okay.
220 miles.
220 miles above the Earth.
Van Allen belts start at 400.
At 400 miles?
Yes.
Wow.
In science.
Yep.
So.
Well, there you have it, ladies and
They're
gentlemen.
not in the they're just closer to the radiation.
Yeah.
400 miles. That's 3 distances from my house to Chicago. 4 distances from my house to Chicago.
So you just traveled that 4 times, and you literally went to the Van Allen belts.
Oh, 8, sorry.
8 times.
And I went to the Van Allen belts.
Wow.
That's a lot of radiation.
That's a lot of radiation.
Real close to us, guys.
Yeah.
I don't know. We could probably look up a good one from city to city, how far 800 miles is. But.
Yeah. Well, should we end it there?
Sure. We can find another place and then.
Yeah.
We'll look into that.
Yeah.
After this video, so we can end this here.
Yeah. We'll end this here, but we might pick up again. So, see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.